Assine a Piauí exclusivamente digital. É conteúdo que não acaba mais. Só R$ 6,90 no primeiro mês.
Daqui a pouco você vai acompanhar uma aventura que não seria imaginada pelos maiores roteiristas de ficção.
Mediador, Festival Nacional de Documentários em Curta-Metragem. Diferente, autêntico, ousado. 50 filmes. O Brasil que você quer ver na tela mais perto de você. Mediador, um festival online, gratuito e acessível. E encontros, painéis, debates. E o voto é popular. Assista e escolha o melhor filme.
As pessoas têm medo da gente porque elas têm medo da liberdade.
Mediador, de 21 a 31 de outubro.
Olá pessoal, boa noite. Aqui quem fala é o Lucas Vasconcellos, diretor da Mediador, Festival Nacional de Documentários em Curta-Metragem. Hoje é dia 24 de outubro e nós teremos o nosso primeiro painel internacional, é o painel da Mostra Francesa. Nós vamos ter um bate-papo que vai ser gravado, que já foi gravado, e vai ser todo falado em inglês. Então a gente não vai poder fazer perguntas dessa vez. Nosso painel conta com o diretor Ripoll-Hurier, diretor do filme Era de Heróis. O Karim Moussaoui não pôde participar, mas ainda assim o filme As Divas do Taguerabt também faz parte do programa. Contamos também com Ismaël, Joffroy, Chandoutis, do filme Maalbeek. Do diretor do filme A Fábrica de Monstros, Malak Maatoug. E também, por fim, Yohan Guignard, do filme Patrulha de Rotina. Todos os filmes estão disponíveis ao longo do festival. E essa é a mostra paralela, logo você não pode votar nos filmes. Espero que gostem. Foi muito proveitosa a conversa. E até mais. Ok. Alright guys, to start here, thank you all for being here at the first edition of Cinedoc Film Festival. It's a great opportunity for us to have you all and to watch our beautiful films here. And this just could happen with the partnership of the French Embassy in Brazil. So we'd like to thank them. And then I just would like to start inviting you to introduce yourselves and talk about a little bit of your films and your background if you want. Would like to start with Simon. Simon?
Yeah, hi. So I'm Simon Ripoll-Hurier, and I'm sharing the film called Age of Heroes, which is a film about Macedonian symphony orchestra who's recording music for films, TV shows, and video games, and so on. And it's a short film about this orchestra in Skopje, North Macedonia.
Okay, cool. Guys, someone is with the microphone open, so it's like reverberating. I don't know, can you hear this as well? Okay, all right, but Malak is on mute, so... Well, it's better, but we cannot hear you. So I will pass this to Yohan right now. Everyone is on mute. What? Can you unmute?
Hello.
Okay. Hi, Yohan. Can you introduce yourself, please?
Yeah, sure. Hello, everybody. I'm Yohan Guignard. So I am the director of Random Patrol, which is a movie about a policeman in the suburbs of Oklahoma City. And well, I'm a filmmaker since a few years. I'm basically making documentaries, and that's all. I mean, like in my work, I do a lot of film about some different communities, and all my movies are based on when I meet people who are like touching me, and I feel that they want to say something to me and to the people. So I start to work and with them, and it's making movie. So
sounds great. Thank you. Ismaël, can you say something for us, please?
Yes, sure. Hey, so I'm Ismaël Chandoutis, artist and filmmaker. And so I'm doing films, but also art installations, working on still images. And my work has some thematic around memory, identity, especially at the time of our virtual meeting every time, like now. And yeah, my films are like questioning big topics, but through the scope of conceptual thoughts. that tries to reveal the invisible. So it can start with a documentary gesture, but I cannot just stay with what I can capture from the reel with the camera. So basically, I'm doing a lot of mixed media in my work. Yeah, that's what can I say, like that go through all my work. Yeah, this idea of mixing medias.
Okay, great. Yeah, we can find this on your film. So I'll pass to Malak. Would you introduce yourself, please?
Yeah, hello everyone. Thanks for having us, Lucas. Thanks for the invitation. So yeah, I'm also making films. I did this documentary, Factory of Monsters, which is really about different groups of people, about working conditions in questioning this process of creating as more artistic way, like the people really trying to always meet people and mix stories and environments and see what can this tell us about how we live today, how we do things today. And so yeah, basically that's it.
Okay, that's great. So as I said, we don't have Karim tonight, but okay, we have a lot of things to talk about. And again, I find all your movies just great. And then I would like to say that I find something particularly a coincidence, because out of 5 of your films were made outside France, which for me it was a kind of a surprise, because here in Cinedoc we have like 50 films and we have like 1 or 2 films made outside Brazil. So I thought this was kind of a coincidence, and a good coincidence. I would like to know your opinion about that. Why do you think you have this particular thing of going outside France to shoot movies? If someone wants to start.
Just I have no answers for that, but maybe just to say that Brazil is quite bigger than France, and on my, I mean, I stayed in, I remain, it's in Europe, so maybe it's more like you should compare the in scale, in terms of scale. Maybe Brazil and Europe are more alike. So I stayed in Europe on my part, but yeah, it's bigger in Brazil.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, it makes sense. I thought of this as well, like the first thing I thought about it, but I think there is a deeper answer. I don't know. I think you as society, you have this thing of going around and searching on the world, like this drive. And while in Brazil we still like searching for our identity or something like that, we're still like digging inside our society to have more. We still have more answers, more questions to answer, you know. And I think this were my thought, that you as society are more you design better in your mind what you believe you are. I mean, I don't know, as a foreigner for France, I don't know if it makes sense at all, but I don't know, what would you say about that?
Well, for myself, I don't know if I do more now the French identity, but well, I'm often traveling, and what I film in USA with my movie talk about also what's happening in France. So there are some kind of answer than you can find in other country that who can talk about your country, what's happening in your country for instance, in my movie, it was just before the George Floyd case in USA, and by Mirror, it's talking about that, and after we had the yellow jacket in France and all the problems with police brutality, and so finally my movie is also talking about what's just the work of a policeman is. So I don't know if it's really like the topic is the USA. I think the topic is more like what is the job of policeman, and I don't know. Maybe Ismaël, it's the same for you with what happening in in Brussels and in Paris.
Yes, because yeah, my project it started before the Brussels attack of the 22nd of March. It actually I had this idea of doing something about how we look at Molenbeek after the 13th of November, in that what happened in Paris, because I was doing a lot of back and forth to work between Paris and Brussels, and back then I was living in Brussels in Molenbeek, and I was working in Paris. So I often was arrested by the police because of my name and because I had the residency in Molenbeek, like the visa card was pointing to Molenbeek. And you can see how you change the perspective just by how medias are showing us just a part of the world, just a part of the reality, because 99% of the people that are living in Molenbeek are very cool and nothing related to terrorists. And but the project I did, it was difficult to do it when I was living in Brussels, and I would say that it was more easier for me to work on that being in Paris than being in Belgium. And that distance is very important. It's not just a geographical distance, but it was my previous life, like what I was doing before. And that's why it took me a lot of years to achieve this movie. And in the same time, as you said before, the two stories are deeply connected, because the group, the terrorist group who was attacking Paris, had the rest of the group planned to attack again Paris, but because Salah Abdeslam was arrested 2 or 3 days before they do the attack in Brussels, they decided to change their plan and to do a quick attack, and that's why they attacked Brussels, but they were supposed to attack Paris again. So yeah, it's because of that, but also I truly believe that, for example, when there was the Yellow Vest movement, there was also the movement in Hong Kong, the protest, Hong Kong protest, and I was very surprised that one idea in my mind was more to film what was happening in Hong Kong than in Paris, because I didn't have the distance, you know. It was happening in front of me, and it's super difficult, and I didn't want it to be a opportunity or like a opportunist idea or whatever. But in the same time, I was like, if it's super close to you, it's more important that you show this first than Hong Kong protest where you don't know anything. It's not your country, it's not your culture. So we can have both point of view about the situation, but for sure to have the distance, it's always important. And it's how you build your ideas to get different point of view. And it's like, for French people, like to talk about Algeria, it's super difficult. So for me, it was easier to talk about Belgium in history through the terrorist attack than to talk about Algeria, for example.
Yeah, I understand. It makes lots of sense. And I didn't know about this thing that happened, one attack affect the plan of the other attack. I didn't know about that. I really love your film. I really like the way
it's the same group. Nobody knows, you know, when French people see my film, they are like, oh, it's there was a terrorist attack in Brussels. It's so like the mediatization of each event is eating the other ones, you know. So when you lived in France, you only think about 13th of November, and when you are in Belgium, you only think about the 22nd of March. But they are related, and not a lot of people know about it. Even if now there is the trial of it, so it's well mediatized, and they still don't get the link, you know. So it's a bit surprising.
Yeah, I didn't know about that. And well, I mean, I live in Brazil; it's quite far, but and so the trial is still happening. So the story is not over yet. Okay.
Yeah, it's a big trial with Salah ad-Deslam, and it's a big how to say enquête. Like the investigation was enormous, and now it's they try with the trial. They really tell the story in the chronological way, and we have a lot of hidden events that are now revealed. So it's important to understand how this happened, and
I really like the way you choose to tell the story using animation and all the effects. And if you could talk about that, how did you process all of this? Because as you said, you're a multimedia artist. Do you contact animation studio, or did you do it by yourself? How did it happen?
I just did it by myself. But first, I would say that the core idea of the project was just to put my camera on a tripod in some places in Maalbeek and just stay for hours and invite people to question me of my intentions. And this happened a lot. It was very good. It was 15 days before the attack, and when it happened, it blowed away this idea. I couldn't continue it because it had nonsense after that. So then you had all the medias that came into birthplace. That's the birthplace. It's a place in the center to, you know, act like a GIF, saying the same information that we knew for days, and then I started to film them, to film this mise en scène, this theatrical scenography of the medias, how they build the terror, because the biggest danger with terrorists is not the bomb itself, it's more the way it's mediatized after. And they were doing what was planned, talking about all this anxious atmosphere, and repeat it, and then you feel the PTSD without being in the train station. So that's the danger of it, because not a lot of journalists are prepared for that, or the distance to say no to the TV or the newspaper to do it like that. You need more distance, and that's why I took a lot of time to find the correct point of view. And my point of view was someone who had to take the metro station at the same hour, same time, same day, but for random decisions the day before, I decided to postpone my meeting from 9:30 to 10 o'clock. And then you realize how things can be elements can change your life. It's not just to be in the wagon who exploded, it's to be in the one before, one after. You are traumatized, and even if you are far away from it, you are traumatized. So I started to talk to people who were involved, like firefighters or the first person who tweeted about the explosions in the airport, and to try to think out of the media's filters. And then after 1 year, I met Sabine, who has amnesia, who doesn't remember anything about the event, but was in this train station.
Mm-hmm.
And I found it very important because we will kind of live the same experience, but in a total different way. So we live the same event, but in different way. And I started to think about making something in between, you know, this intermediary space between two people, like my anxiety because of this too much mediatization, and her trauma because of the lack of memory. And then I started to follow her and to have this discussion for years on her quest to find the missing image. And of course, it's not just to film someone, you know, Darden style, and you follow someone trying to find what's not an object, just memory. So you have to be inside her mind to think like she's thinking. And for that, it's trying to reveal the invisible, looking at archive footages or amateur video, not to remember or to see the violence of it, but to find yourself into it, to believe in it. So that's how, after a certain essay, like I tried many things, I found that maybe after I rewatched Waltz with Bashir with exactly the same dispositive, I took the courage to try to use animation to reanimate the memory, but also to try to represent this fragmentation of memory through all this, the style of the film, which is a sort of pointillist aesthetic, and to mix it with medias, and yeah, to put the audience into this mental landscape that is Sabine's mind. Yeah, so that was the intention.
I think it was great. I think you were really well successed doing this, and then we really can feel the experience of being there. You know, it's tense. It gives lots of agony. So I think it was a really good resource using animation for sharing this experience. I would like to come back to you, Yohan, to talk about this police thing, because I think your film, it's observational film, which is other technique to make a documentary, and at the same time you also discuss this idea of this tension, of this how tough it is to be a policeman, and you break the idea of the stereotype of a police officer in America that Hollywood gives to us. Hollywood tried to make like superhero police officers, and you show like a chubby police officer, kind of bored, with hand on patrol. And if you could talk a little bit more about this guy and your film.
Yeah, sure. Well, my intention was to go through, and after the cliche of the policeman with the black sunglasses, and in fact I met this guy like few years ago when I was traveling through USA by hitchhiking, and I was couch surfing to meet people and to find some characters for some project and some documentaries. And I met this guy. He invited me in his house. So you know what is couch surfing? Is when you invite people for free and in your house, and you show him your life, and it's a sharing and to for the traveler. It's free and it's really really nice. And this guy was doing that, and he told me that he was doing that to save his soul, because he went so deeply in his paranoia by being a cop. So he became really crazy. His wife left him, so he was really in depression, and he thought about suicide and everything. And then he found a couch surfing. So he started to invite the world in his house, and it saved him. So me was like, I arrived at his house, and he invited me to go on his daily life, one day of his work, and I filmed him. And then I came back in France with this images, and I showed it to some friends and producer, and I had the opportunity to go back in USA and to film him, and it was okay. So I stayed 2 weeks, and I made this movie. He was totally like okay to be filmed by me. Like he told me like, okay, you film whatever it happens, you can. So he was really like sharing with me his life, and he was really like making the movie with me. So so for me it was like really a big gift, because I knew that he was doing giving me everything. So but he was doing it, he was making like the actor, like he was acting a lot, like each day he was saying like today is a new day, we don't know what will happen and everything. So he was really like acting in front of my camera, but I was like doing okay. I was saying like, I mean, thinking like, okay, you can act as you want, but I know that in the editing I will go to search what he doesn't control. And but we decided with the editor to keep the moment when he was like a big acting with me also. For instance, when he's saying like that it's something happened to him, I had to press the red button. I mean it was like because I was continuing to film him. I was filming him, so he was thinking like I had to say something, so he did that. The same way then when he took his gun, and when this guy is coming to ask him if he can park in the parking lot, I don't know if he would have done that if I wasn't there. So my presence in his car, in his police car, also made the movie. And so it was a game between him and I. But I don't know. I mean, it's I decided to stay in the car because it was like all the tension between the inside and the outside was really revealing what's in his mind, and how the outside is a big area of scare for him. So
yeah, I think of course every time someone is shooting a documentary with a character like that, like that, you have an agreement. You know, it's like invisible agreement between you and the character, and I think this can be seen in your film, because it's not that easy to get access to be inside a police officer's car, right? So you got that successfully, and I think this is your biggest merit of your film, and I think this is super cool. I mean, being also a very tense film, and you also have that part when you get his dad is involved in an accident, and which is very unfortunate. But for a filmmaker, it's something really it's kind of lucky thing, because it's something that happened in your film and you want to show it. So if you could talk a little bit about that too as well, because you have to take a decision if you keep shooting or if you stop shooting, right? It's
well, you know, I was living in his house, so I was like a friend of the family. So I was filming everything, but I was filming in his house too, not only in the car. And but his dad didn't want it to be filmed. So when it happened, it was okay to film in the car because we were filming everything what was happening. But after we went to the hospital, and I filmed the way to the hospital, but I stopped filming in the hospital. I mean, no, I mean it's sure I was making my movie, and I was thinking like then I didn't know how I will use that. So it was a big moral question for me. But at the end, it's just showing that at the beginning of the movie, he's thinking that he can die each day, and at the end, the death is coming from another way. So, and how he reacts to that, I mean, he keep his face like he's and he stay in his car to which is the place where the only place who can protect him. So that's what I wanted to show. And yeah.
Yes, I think, yeah, it's big decisions. So let's go for Malak right now. This is a more frugal film on Portugal. And how was that? How is your Portuguese? Tá falando um pouquinho de português ou não?
Sim, um pouquinho. Mas faz tantos anos que eu não estava falando muito com gente, mas foi também uma maneira de ver um país, de ver uma cultura diferente e aprender a conhecer gente e fazer esse filme num outro lugar que é a França, que essa questão da distância com a gente que encontrou foi para mim também difícil, mas uma maneira de não sei como dizer isso.
No, so let's return
so
to English.
You see,
so our friends can understand as well.
Yes. No,
Yeah,
but to be in another country and to have this language barrier is also kind of defining how you do the film and how you have this. Ismaël was talking about the observation and the distance and how you place yourself as a filmmaker. And for me also this was kind of important, although I'm not French, right? But since I live here for so many years, it was more easy for me to get it somewhere else. And of course, this is also for me always when I have projects, kind of doing this with people I get to know and places I get to know. So I was shooting a lot in Portugal for like 10 years and with different people and different friends. The final output of this phase of my life in a way. So yeah.
Oh, so you've been shooting there for 10 years in Portugal?
Yeah, like I mean, I started going to Portugal, and I was interested in this country, and but I mean, I was traveling around the world. Also, I was in Brazil for some time, but it was then also shooting was easier to do it in Portugal. But also, yeah, it's kind of me. I was really interested in the economic crisis in Europe back then in the early years of 2010, and how Portugal was really affected by this, and how people are affected by this. Now I'm living really in rural countryside of France, so I see also this kind of difference between big cities, big city lives, And in the same time, I'm being part of it. I lived for many years in Paris, but then going somewhere where people have different style of life and discovering how they can manage to live also maybe in an artistic way, a creative way of life in Portugal. What's the difference with our way of life in France? Maybe this is also, you do films and you kind of make a mirror of what's your life. And of course, I mean, people that watch this movie in Portugal or in Brazil will have a different feeling of this film than people in France, because for them it's maybe more exotic, but also more intriguing in a way, you know, because this kind of industry that I'm filming doesn't exist anymore in France, but it's kind of a history. I think that everything is connected. We have had this kind of factory. My grandfather, my German grandfather, was working in this kind of factory when he was working, but that's 40, 50 years ago, and you still find this in Portugal. And what's odd is that this factory is owned by German people. So I think in Europe we are kind of really connected through friends, through connections and traveling, and even on all scales, like working class, everything is kind of intertwined, and that's also something I really wanted to show, that in these tiny villages in Portugal, you can find these groups of artists coming from all over Europe doing projects, and then you have this factory where people also are from Germany, and there's this kind of exchange of cultures through this kind of alienating work process. And yeah, basically that was kind of this main key point.
I love your film, and I think you find something that is like really rare right now with this kind of industry, you know, like it looks like kind of a familiar business or something, really local, and they still keep their traditions, you know, that the Monster Factory. And so they have the both sides, you know, the professional side of building things, and then the personal side is the social side of building the monsters and keeping that party going on. So I thought it was quite cool. And for you, it's like they are Germans, as you said. So you get this link as well. You are very familiar with Portugal. You have a German side of your family. So there are lots of connections in this movie that looks quite simple in the good way of saying. And I think this is a great merit of your film. I don't know if it makes sense.
Yeah, sure. Obrigado.
De nada. Prazer. So if I could jump to Simone as well right now, I would like to know a little bit more. How did you find this fantastic place in Macedonia, which is, I mean, people could just, I believe lots of people pass by over there and cannot imagine that there's a lot of magic going on inside the studio.
Yeah, actually, it's a funny story. I was on tour with my band, touring the Balkans back in, I think, 2014 or 2015, and a friend of a friend of a friend of a friend. This studio is run by a French, has been created by the French couple Laurent and Aude, and I heard of them, and we managed to meet. At the time, the studio was not like they built their own studio now, but at the back then they were recording in the old public radio, Yugoslavian radio building, which is totally amazing. And the idea of a film started instantly, but then they moved to this new building, which in a way is more, I mean, it's easier to do a film with this new building, which is like, there isn't, the story is is lighter in a way. You don't have to bring the whole Yugoslavian public radio thing with you. Yeah, that's I've been there a couple of times, and then that's how I think most of the people of the neighborhood don't know that there is a studio here. It's brand new. I mean, the building itself is just a few years old. And yeah, that's how I got to know the studio is like, this is the story. And then I decided to go there to film, but very simply, I didn't, it was a film without a project, so there is no budget, I didn't write a project or anything. I just booked a flight and spent time with them in the studio, a few weeks, I don't know how many weeks, and filmed everything I could see, everywhere I could go, and just spend time. It's, in a way, I really like it how you connected all those films together, because every time it's just a situation. Most of the time, it's a situation where you spend time in, like in a factory in Portugal, or in the car, a cop's car, or etc. And there, that was just the point, to spend time in this studio. The only idea I had before starting was that that I knew what kind of music they were recording there. So I knew what kind of effect this music has on people, let's say. I mean, it's big orchestral music for films. And so I knew that by filming people producing, recording, making this music, it would create like a feedback loop, a strange feedback loop, that they would become the heroes of a Hollywood film, so to speak. But they're just doing their daily job, and it's very boring in the same time, because they record a lot of different scores every day, and they're quite focused like this, and then you have all those strings behind them, and it becomes very dramatic in a way. So that was my intuition, and I mean, it was a very easy, I knew it was going to happen. And then by spending time there, I didn't want to, I knew I wasn't going to spend enough time to really get in relation with the people around the studio, the building. I couldn't, I wasn't able to really understand what was going on in this neighborhood. But I spent time there, and I noticed that there were a lot of dogs of how do you say, like chien errant, like dogs without,
Stray
just
dogs.
wandering. Yeah, stray dogs. Thank you. And so they were kind of the same dogs every day, and they were here, and they were not doing anything. And in a way, they were perfect for me, because it was like a small indication of some sort of social situation there. Like, there is this big fancy studio, and just around is a very quiet and nice neighborhood, but also very poor. And the dogs are here to say that, but they're also like, it's almost like Cary Grant in La Mort aux Trousses. I forgot the English title, like a Hitchcock movie. It's like they're empty, like Cary Grant, who's playing like this, an interesting communication guy who has a very empty life, and suddenly is filled with a lot of things by outsiders, in a way. So the dogs are, I mean, they are dogs, so you cannot access their interiority. You cannot access what they're from the inside, which is the same as every actor, but they're like really radically aliens. And then with the music, with the like, by making the music leak from the studio, and by like putting the music on the dogs, you could transform them into into some kind of actors filled with interiority, and so it was a very I don't know, I was gonna say experimental, but it's not really like an experimental film, but like a device. Okay, so you have a situation where people play this kind of music, so what is this producing with the environment, and what does it mean? I mean, what this music is producing, basically.
Yeah, I find your film, there's kind of a musical character, you know. It's like not like La La Land or something like this. Is the opposite. It would be like a deconstructed musical, you know, where the music performs like a true character, like in the first place, you know, not something just in the background. And I like the way you edit, and you really show this inside out thing, you know, this conflict between what's happening inside the studio and what's happening outside the studio, you know. It's like something really orchestrated inside it and being repeated in many tracks, and how there is a lot of work to make a film, and outside the real life, you know, where there is no repetition, there is no it is what it is, you know. So I think it's very fascinating. You really use the studio as a character, you know. It's not just a location, and I found this really amazing. I think thinking in all the films together, and the reflection that I'm trying to propose here at Cinedoc as a festival, as putting the short documentary as the protagonist, because in January we just watch short documentaries at smaller movies or something, like they're not so important. So one of the forces, it comes, I think, when the short films come together in a program, we can see these building blocks of stories which bring where the strength really is, I think. And I think we are in a world that is so saturated with images that we are always looking to Instagram and YouTube and whatever. We kind of lose the ability of looking to stuff. And many of your films are observational films, and to observe really stuff. So I think it's a really good exercise nowadays, and I think this is where the strength of the short where the documentaries are right now. And I don't know if you could talk a little bit about that. What do you think of what is the role of the short documentary nowadays as makers? What would you think about that? Tricky one. Ismaël, Malak.
Yeah, I think that you're right in the sense of we are saturated by images, especially hyperreal images. So we have to, we as filmmaker, but also as citizens in this world of fake news and complotism, we have to deconstruct the real that passes through the informations, through the marketing of ourselves, and for that it's good to observe some faits divers, some just moving pictures that inspires, or that we have like a hint, like, oh, there is something happening. For example, I'm sure that there is something to do with the reactions of people that has an addiction to dopamine. So the way they reacted last week when the Zucker universe was down, I think that we will see big consequences of the Twitch leak from last week, because a lot of informations, like maybe the biggest hack in the history has been done by the leak of all the passwords and user ID and Twitch plans, Amazon plans, data of people, like the way we look to content and the way we share contents and all the transactions. It's really saying something about our daily life. And this is a good sandbox to create art through a sort of forensic investigation, maybe, and how we can discuss about it, because it will have big consequences. So that's a way to deal with it. It's not just to follow a story of someone who has been hacked, but maybe to think about at a different scale. And this is to talk about what we cannot see, what we cannot access through this flow of images. And in my case, in Maalbeek, it's like you react. There are two things that were very interesting, because one of my first intuition before 22nd of March was the way we are filming tragic events during when it's happening, like why you are filming an event that puts you in danger and still you take the time with your phone to record the scene. So that was very important for me to understand the process and how it deals with the medias, like how medias then take it, put a voiceover on it, and completely distract the gesture. Because for me, when you have people who are filming, it's like in French we say the telephone, the smartphone is a screen, so it protects you. Like when you are using the sun cream, you know, it's a screen. In French we say protection écran, and écran it means screen in English. Okay. So it's like when you are taking your phone. Sorry, I had a call. So when you are taking your phone, it's like you're trying to protect yourself from what's happening, not to be traumatized, and put this at distance. So that's why I wanted to analyze this footage, and that's the footage that Sabine is investigating. But I tried to put it in another context, to reorganize the chronology or history, and to try to put out the violence, because I guide the audience to watch it in the way Sabine is watching it, and just to force it just in this way and not in the media's way, which is to be sensational, to have the economy of attention, and to have viewers, money and everything. So that's how, with a different context, we can show something different. I think it's the case for all the film, and also the fact that cinema still, even if we are not maybe number one in terms of impact, because now it's video games, rap music, and maybe live stream, I don't know, something like that, or TikTok. But still, it's a great place to take time to deconstruct the complexity of the world and complexity of events, and trying to question it on with more shades, I would say, because the difference with social networks, where we can find a great opportunity to raise big big stories, or big thematic for politics and everything, like some great movements emerged from social networks, especially, for example, in Instagram, where feminism is trying to yeah, to change the balance and the equality between men and women. But in the same time, this platform, it's a total, I mean, all the interface is built to create this consumerism of hyperreal images that have a big impact on teenagers. And yeah, this will be revealed in all the leaks, like how social networks are impacting our way to think and to limit the way we think about subjects by like stimuli response, like plus and minus, I like or I dislike, and everything. Even if we have like big questions that are raised at a big level, like with the it's difficult to explain it, but at a globalization level or impact for communication, still the interface and the lack of it's just a 2D screen. We don't feel it. Even like when I'm talking, we feel just maybe 30% of all my expression. So I mean, it's very limited, and I hope that we can build a bridge between this, the real, and maybe it can be through art. So that's why we are here.
So you think, yeah, exactly. Like the documentaries can bring a more deep reflection. It's not this
uninteresting reflection. Yeah, because economy of attention. I mean, even if I believe many people, it's. I mean, if these people, anybody, like even activists and everything, how they live, how they earn money. That's the big question. If you can share the same idea without earning money, then it's different. But when you are sharing ideas, philosophical ideas, political ideas through these medias, we can question it. It's not black and white, but we have to question it, because everything has to be known. Like, to raise an idea on Instagram, you need to know how the algorithm works. So that's also a sandbox to think through art,
Definitely.
How it works, how we raise these ideas, and why these ideas is raised right now, and why it's popular.
I agree with you. What do you other guys think about that? Making documentaries right now in this social media algorithm, and
go ahead, please, Johan.
No, but I think that your idea was about, your question was about also the to make short documentary, right?
Yes, specifically.
Also, yeah.
If you want to.
No. Me, I totally agree with Ismaël. It's really interesting. I will just add that, I mean, in my case, because I had a lot of footages, and we decided to make it short for two reasons. The first reason was because when you go like more deeply in the main idea of the movie, and you clear the way to go to it, it's more strong. I mean, the less you say, like the strongest, stronger the idea will be. You know what I mean? Like, and after, it's also about the economy of cinema. Like, in my case, I film without money, so it's easy to also to make a movie in the idea that he will be seen after when it's shorter. Because to make a long documentary, a feature documentary, it takes a lot of time and a lot of money and a lot of energy. So in my case, like a short documentary, it's the short way to go to make an object which can be seen really fast and more deeply. Like it's a question of distribution, to go in festival and everything. Sometimes it's better to make something short and to make a longest movie after.
Yeah, and I think it's about distribution, and I think in France you are really aware of that. I mean, I discovered that you have the Agence de Court Métrage. You have a dedicated agents just for short movies, which is a privilege. I mean, this is great. And also you have many film festivals, right? Like there's the big Clermont-Ferrand, right? Which is a huge festival for short films. So, I mean, this is great. And I feel that with Cinedoc, I would love to help a little bit with Brazilian filmmakers, which like this is the first edition of the festival. And I have like lots of submissions. So I felt that there is this demand for filmmakers who want to show, to be together and show their films. So I think it's all around. We are living in an era that this was never so easy to make a film, right? The problem now is not to produce, it's to screen, to show your film. I don't know if you agree with me. I think it's what you were saying about distribution, right?
Yeah, but we have the chance to have big institutions, and a lot of money are coming from the state to organize everything from production to distribution to festivals and everything. But the real challenge is more how we can have a wider spectrum of different visions in the cinema, and it's not everybody who is playing this system, in the system. It's just an elite of people and a small amount of people from popular classes are have this chance to upgrade in a way and become a player in this game. But the big question is how we can represent all, for example, just all the visions in France or films about France, if we have just a small portion of the population who can raise their voice or express their art. So that's the big question. It's not just about the system, it's about the access of the system. And that's the big challenge, because if we are doing a feature film, for example, it's good to have many options and many helps. But if you are, in France, it's very different from the US, where in the US, it's just one guy or women or whatever who is bringing all the money. I'm doing a sort of caricature. And in France, it's a sort of petit chevaux game, like the game with the horses. Like you have like 35 steps to do and all the applications folders before a race, like it's a race to do. And then after that, you can still, if you still have the energy, you can do your idea, but before to be like to have your idea compliant with all the different visions of these institutions, you can lose yourself. So that's the big challenge. Do you want to do the race, and after that, do you have still the energy to express the first flame? That's the
Exactly.
question. I'm not sure. Yeah, I'm not sure. It's always. I'm not. It's super easy for me to say that because we have the chance, and I have the chance to be to have some grants and to work and to be paid for that, especially with the artist status. So no comparison, but in the same time, we have different parameters and constraints that if you don't have money, you just do it in another way. And that's why, for example, some very great festivals like Slam Dance in the US, they are really like, it's you are like the people who are selected. There are a lot of independent people, and sometimes we just have to question ourselves: do we have to do this race of institutions, or maybe we can be inspired by other countries who just do with what they have, you know? So everywhere it's like your choice is to accept what you left, what you're living, you know. It's living. You always have to leave something, and you cannot keep everything. If you have the money, you have to leave some part of your heart, and if you don't have money, of your full heart, but a lot of difficulties and time in addition, or like the social, you have to manage more the humanist way of making films. So maybe something in between would be the best way.
It would be, definitely. It's never easy. We always have to let something behind.
The in between is the best, like not to depend on one system, because the system can kill yourself.
So okay, what do you think about Simon on Malak Samedi?
I don't know, Malak, you were about to say something earlier. Maybe you want to start?
Malak?
Or not?
Yeah, he sent me something in the chat. He lost his connection for a while. Yeah, you can go on, Simon, so please, if you could.
Oh, okay. No, but I mean, I don't have. In a way, I don't. I mean, I have. It's a very important. It's a lot of very important questions all mixed together, and in the same time, I don't know if I have much to say about this, because, I mean, I really don't know what. I don't know how to put it. It's a very tricky question in a way, because the way I'm making films is very political in some extent, but never in the sense of a direct political message or whatever. I guess many of us would agree about this here. So we cannot confront directly to the problem of social network or social Facebook or anything, of the spread of a conspiracy theory or fake news or whatever. I mean, it's not. I don't feel like it's my role of. I mean, I have an opinion on this as a citizen, maybe, or but my films don't talk directly about I mean, not this one at least. And that's one point. The other is that also we can navigate. It's true that we have very different economies. I mean, the way it works in France is very different from the way it works, I'm sure, the way it works in Brazil, or the way it works in any other country, or in the US, or I don't know. But even in France, we have many different. I come from visual arts, and my first film, I produced it in 2017. I never made a film before that, and I didn't know anything about the film industry, the so-called film industry. I didn't know even that it was called an industry before that. And so I just managed to do films with money from the art world, a little bit from here and there. And this film, for example, I didn't have any money to do it. And I'm sure, I mean, you have different models, but in the same time, at a personal scale, you can navigate through different economies. So you can decide, okay, this project needs to be a little bit, produced, and then you can dive into the arena that you were talking about, Ismaël. Like, let's go with the dossier, with the fundraising stuff, and writing 10 times a different version of the script or whatever. And for the next film, you can say, okay, fuck it, and just grab a camera and go. I mean, you're right that it has never been so easy to make a film. I mean, it's been very easy. It's been a while since, I mean, you could say that La Nouvelle Vague was saying, okay, now we have portable cameras, it's quite easy to make a film, but now it's really, we can use this, but we can also use a cinema camera for very cheap and make like cinema-like films very easily. You can crack Adobe Premiere I mean, it's so easy to make a film. And then the question is not really a question of economy of production, because in any economy you can find ways to make films. The question is, what film do you make? So I guess it doesn't answer at all to the question, but just I mean, we should, it's not in the, maybe the short answer would be, it's not in the process of making films that we find the answer. It's just maybe by looking very carefully at each film. So okay, so what Yohan's film, for example, has to say to some questions, regarding some questions. So the image of the police, in the public image of the police, and how it deconstructs such or such question. But maybe, I mean, I think I say this about Yohan's film because I was really struck by I mean, the dispositif is super efficient in precisely in deconstructing the pre-thought image of a cop. But I mean, it should be a discussion about, does it succeed? Is it successful or not? Which I think it is. I felt it was, but so there is a debate on this, and so on and so on. And maybe
I
it's
understand. It's a reflection on it, because we don't have a answer. It's not a simple answer. I mean, things are changing really fast, and I think it's kind of a noisy world right now with many platforms, lots of contents, and so there is lots of things to think about, to process, and to say about it. So that's why I'm bringing this up here. It's because I would like to hear from your perspective what you think about that. And Malak, do you want to share with us what you think about this all production thing and screening?
Yeah, of course. I think everyone said really some interesting points as far as I could understand them. Sorry for my technical problem, but I do. For me, it's kind of the same. You have this kind of liberty for me, basically, to do a short movie. And what is interesting about this form of short movie is that you can more easily invite people to watch this kind of dispositif. What Simon just said is like, how do you want to talk about a certain subject, and in which kind of way, which images. So I think all of us, everyone chose a different type of way, but we all did some kind of observation of this work going around. But in short movies, you can really do that more easily, and also the public maybe is more time frame of 10, 15, 20, 30 minutes. You can play with this kind of form of images. To talk about this kind of industry, or factory industry, for example, you have to do it on a long film, in feature film, you have to be more in this kind of narrative thing, so I didn't really want to do this in this environment. And to do a short movie, you can just say, okay, we will not have so much dialogue, we will not have a real narrative and a real character that we will follow. And I think that's the strength of short movies. And then again, touching all this discussion about our world, social media and production and cinema. In this, I think, of course, all this is really of huge importance for a lot of people. And of course, what we want to do if we make a film is to just share it and have the most people watching it. But I think me too. I was not produced with a lot of money in this film, so you cannot expect to push through this kind of industry. Also, with choosing this liberty to do these films, but I think it's really nice for you also to invite French movies to show in Brazil and to have this exchange. I really festival environment. Of course, if you are in a Parisian festival or doc festival, you really feel the industry. People know really much about cinema, etc. But if you are more in in a lot of places in the world, you have a lot of and sharing this, and it's really, I think, kind of a little spillover that by time people get to watch different stuff than just the usual narrative way of cutting movies and doing movies. So little by little.
Yeah, I agree with you as well. I mean, I think it's important to say that small stories are really important too. We don't need just to go to the movies to watch like big stories, huge stories. Like we can find great stories in a small city in Portugal or somewhere in an American suburb. And this is I think the big strength of the short documentaries, and that's why I'm trying to make this film festival to put all this together and make these small stories protagonists. And so guys, I will start to wrap up this conversation. I would like to say it has been a pleasure talking to you, and this great opportunity to connect with all of you here from Brazil, to connect with France, to have this French program in this first edition of the festival. It's an honor. And again, you have beautiful film, great talent. It's really good talking to you. And that's it. Thank you so much. Muito obrigado. Merci beaucoup. And it's been a pleasure. I will send you guys the link if you want to say something.
No, merci beaucoup for the invitation.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys. I'll stop recording. Olá, pessoal. Então chegamos ao final do painel sobre a nossa Mostra Francesa com os diretores. Agradecemos a presença de todos vocês por terem assistido até aqui. Lembrando que todos os filmes do festival estão disponíveis ao longo de todos os dias do festival. Não deixe de votar ao final de assistir os filmes. Lembrando que a Mostra Francesa é não competitiva, então não tem a necessidade do voto. Também quero anunciar a nossa live de amanhã às 18 horas, ministrada pela nossa jurada Renê Castelo Branco. A Masterclass tem o seguinte tema: do jornalismo ao documentário. Limites entre jornalismo e documentário. Muitos programas jornalísticos são chamados de documentários. Qual seria a diferença? Então, muito boa aula. Espero todos vocês. Até amanhã.
Assine a Piauí exclusivamente digital. É conteúdo que não acaba mais. Só R$ 6,90 no primeiro mês.
Acompanhar uma aventura que não seria imaginada pelos maiores roteiristas de ficção.
Cinedoc, Festival Nacional de Documentários em Curta-Metragem. Diferente, autêntico, ousado. 50 filmes. O Brasil que você quer ver na tela mais perto de você. Cinedoc, um festival online, gratuito e acessível. E encontros, painéis, debates. E o voto é popular. Assista e escolha o melhor filme.
As pessoas têm medo da gente porque elas têm medo da liberdade.
Cinedoc, de 21 a 31 de outubro.